It's unfortunate.
Dennis Dodd, CBS Sports, joins us on 365 Sports with Craig and David Smoak. Dennis, thanks for your time. I thought it might be nice and maybe something new that we brought you on and discuss football, if that's okay.
That'd be great.
Knowing that there's always something bubbling, like right now with the ACC, Pac-12, or whoever else. All right, so Texas is the media poll darling. At least they got the first place votes, enough to be the number one team. And it does appear as they're set up. Your thoughts about right now with Texas at the top of the poll, and your thoughts about who you think is the conference favorite?
I just got done doing my picks for the Big 12, and I'll break some news here. I picked Texas Tech. And halfway because Tech, won 1-8 in Joey McGuire's first year. Tyler Shucks in place, 16 returning starters. I think it's fascinating, that game at Austin, November 24th. They could end up playing 2 weeks in a row. But also because you guys know this, we've been led down this path so many times to Texas that I just said I can't pick Texas until they do it. I understand why they're the favorites. I think they should be the favorites, but personally, I can't pick them. They've got to get over this hump of, is Texas back? And if they win the league, I'm not sure Texas is back, considering where they're going next year. But I've got Tech. I don't think it's a very deep conference this year, and that's part of the reason Texas is favored. But looking around, that's my pick right now.
They've got the quarterback back. They've got a lot of other good players back there in Lubbock, and obviously a lot of fire there with Joey McGuire. When's the last time, Dennis, you can recall sort of the feeling around Lubbock as the one there is right now?
It's been a while. It's been since Leach. This is, I think it ties the most wins since Leach, the 8th last year. So yeah, and they put in whatever it is, $200 million in facilities. They are all in under Kirby Hocutt, under Joey McGuire. Now with this new little conference, I think it's part of the story of the new Big 12 starting this year, and obviously.
Okay, we just lost him. We just accidentally cut him off. We'll try to get back in touch with Dennis here in just a second. So there's a couple other notes. Bob Thompson, we'll get to this later in the show, but I don't know if you saw this from Bob Thompson about really what did with the reports about what yesterday Kirk Schultz at Washington State had to say. He has a response to that, and we will get to that here in just a moment, too, once we get Dennis back on the show.
That's great. Look, I guess, do we have Dennis?
We have Dennis back. Sorry about that, Dennis.
Yeah.
We got cut off. If you don't mind finishing up that comment.
Yeah, I don't know where you left off, but I just think I was saying that with the loss of Texas and Oklahoma, who are going to be that team or teams who's going to rule the league? It's going to be somebody different every year. It's going to be Oklahoma State. It seems like it's the next best program, but with the addition of those new schools, who's to say? I think people forget BYU was a national program for a long, long time until they went independent. Cincinnati's been to the playoff. UCF has proven. You've got the Pac-12 schools. So I think it's going to be interesting. I don't think this league can afford to have a different, have necessarily a different champion every year, because that's what's happened to the Pac-12, and look where it's gotten. Now, what will help them is the 12-team playoff. So you're almost always going to be represented at least one and possibly two teams every year.
Dennis, if there is a team that's carrying the banner, Texas Tech in the future is a great candidate. Some may say an Oklahoma State, but TCU, they're the only Big 12 team to have actually won a playoff game. They lose a lot, obviously, but what sense do you get from just how, dialed in Sonny Dykes is there with that situation in Fort Worth, the ability to take advantage of the transfer portal, surround himself with, a new OC in Kendall Browse? How much fall off are you expecting from a pretty magical run a year ago?
Well, I think there has to be fall off because look where they were. That was an all-time season at TCU. Everything had to go right. That being said, they've got a plug-and-play quarterback. They've got the guy that has won the job before he got hurt going into the season. Sonny is recruiting like a madman, and it's so ironic to me that, remember TCU, we all know the story about Chris Del Conte going and, seeing the lost odds and getting them in the league. And Texas used to look down its nose at TCU. Well, TCU, beat Texas 7 of the last 10 times, I think, and now established themselves. It's not a national program, certainly one that is in this discussion about who's going to be the best in the Big 12, and they're just getting rolling under Sonny. I think Sunday bottled something really special there. So, and by the way, I would tell our betting friends out there to go heavy on the Frogs in the first game against Colorado. I don't think I'm going out on a limb saying that, but I think Sonny's got something to be at, knowing Sonny. Sonny's an accomplished coach. He's won at the highest levels. Deion is Deion, but he hasn't won at this level. So I'd look for TCU to throw a number on.
Yeah, we discussed it yesterday. In fact, Sonny joined us yesterday to discuss how they have replaced this player or 8 or 9 players, it seems like, with portal additions because they did a great job with it last year. And Craig looked it up, and what did you say it was? The 20-point point spread or something like that for you, Colorado?
It's 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, 3 touchdowns. And I thought it would be like 14, but that goes to show you what a lot of people think about that game.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's on national television because of Deion. If it wasn't, it would kind of be an afterthought. Because TCU is going to have more than enough to cover that spread. But how are they going to play? The last we saw them, talking about Colorado, that was kind of a staged thing on ESPN on that spring practice. Even though they had a lot of big plays, it was very entertaining. I was, with my naked eye, not impressed with their linemen. And I don't know where they're going to get them from. They brought in, last I checked on 24/7, 51 transfers. I asked a bunch of people during Colorado spring practice in the aftermath of that, are there 50 players that are, what would have been then Pac-12 worthy players? And coach after coach said no. So who's he filled in with? It'll be interesting to see.
Oklahoma in this last run, I mean, here you have Texas getting all of the highlights of the preseason, a lot of the accolades. I mean, Oklahoma's getting a little bit of that too, but certainly not what they've been accustomed to, Dennis. And coming off last year, how do you see the Sooners with Brent Venables? Do they learn from their mistakes and now he's more seasoned and they know a bit better about the situation and what all is involved? Or are they kind of in that period where it's just not going to be an automatic double-digit wins every year?
Yeah, it's not. And I will say, I don't know what the word is with Brent Venables. You can't say he's on the hot seat, but if this happens 2 years in a row, Oklahoma's not going to sit around. I mean, I got 2 words for you, John Blake. And I love Brent Venables. I think he's the best defensive mind in the country. That didn't show through last year. I don't think they can't be any worse than they were last year defensively. And this kid who led the league and Dutchman that led the league, I think, in tackles. They got a guy coming in from Indiana, one of the linebackers that's really, really good. So they're going to be better defensively. I think at quarterback they're set. Dylan Gabriel was good. He was not great. That's okay. But I think if they get back to an 8-4 season and show progress, they'll be fine. But that was a stupendous fall, particularly defensively. I was amazed.
Dennis Dodd with us. Dennis, there seems to be right now peace and quiet, although there's the constant what might happen with the ACC and or what may occur with whoever is left of the Pac-12. Do you see anything on the horizon just based on your knowledge, or is that just going to be one of those things that like dies on the vine?
What, the Cal Stanford stuff?
Yes. What's going to happen in your opinion with Cal Stanford and ACC?
Yeah, well, everybody's waiting for that, for the next shoe to drop. That has to be resolved before we do anything on the West Coast with those 2 other Pac schools. There was a president's call today that was canceled. It was regularly scheduled, but obviously you'd be a fool not to think they were going to discuss that topic. And from what I've been able to discern, there have been no cracks in the wall of those 4 schools who are voting against Stanford and Cal joining the league. They only need to slip 1 vote for them to join to make it 75% and 12-3 among the presidents. But those 4 presidents are staunchly against it for now. And then if they stay that way, and again, what's the timeline? I was told over the weekend, nothing over the weekend, but maybe this week, you'd have to think it's getting close to the season. You'd like to have everything wrapped up. But if they don't get in boy, that's really messes things up in terms of those of us who, not only for those schools, but those of us who cover. I can't envision a world watching Stanford play in a conference with, say, Fresno State, San Jose State. You know what I'm talking about? I don't think that happens. So then do they go independent? I think that's the last option for Stanford. Do they swallow their academic pride and play in the Mountain West, with those schools? Or do you go get a higher payday, marginally higher payday in the American, where there's some like-minded teams like Tulane and some other academic institutions, SMU maybe, where, you could play with those teams. But this is really interesting because the market, the networks, the rights holders, whoever, has drawn the line as playoff-worthy teams. In other words, we can stage a playoff without Oregon State, without Washington State, without Cal, without Stanford. I think that's the larger message here. And it will continue in the future. It almost happened to the Big 12 and it collapsed.
Mm-hmm.
What they were saying, and Oklahoma and Texas left, and you guys know this, they were within weeks of really being in trouble, and the Pac-12 didn't act, is that we could have a national playoff without the Big 12 remainder. I think that's scary.
Dennis, do you think that that's still top of mind? Obviously, the Big 12 has done what they've done, but it just seems like between comments from Sankey about the playoff and just kind of the feel around everything, do you see the chairs being lined up for that, in fact, to be kind of the next big wave of change that occurs? Is those two just playing the bully role versus everybody else and blocking others out?
Those two conferences?
Yes.
Yeah. The August 30th meeting in Dallas is going to be fascinating. I believe that's the presidents and the commissioners, but we're talking about the CFP. And Greg Sankey has left more than breadcrumbs behind him, saying he's in favor of the 12 best. Well, that is going to be fascinating if they go that way. Because I think clearly 6 and 6 won't endure because the Pac-12 is gone. So is it 5 automatic, 5 highest ranked conference champions, 7 at large? Mm-hmm. Is it something different than that? Is it 12? And Greg Sankey has said time after time that he wouldn't be against that. And I think I'll say this. I think anything that keeps Congress or antitrust people in Congress from getting involved is going to be a win for the Big Ten and SEC. In other words, how much revenue can we allow you to earn where you don't sue? I thought it was that way with the BCS. I thought it was that way with the 14 playoff. And if there's enough money there, because it's going to be a windfall in the 12-team playoff, can you, quote unquote, buy off those group of 5 schools by giving them a share large enough that allows 12 at large, which means and I love this, my editor looked this up. This is huge news, guys. In the history of the playoff, had there been a 12-team playoff in the last 9 years, an average of 7.3 teams per year would have been in the playoff from the Big Ten and SEC. That means in any given year, a total of 4.7 schools from the remaining 99 in FBS would have been in the playoff.
Mm. That's a great stat. That's doing some homework right there.
Yeah.
Dennis, when it comes to the Big 12, they obviously got what they wanted ultimately out west. They kind of threw water on the idea of, anything basketball related or UConn or that for the time being. And it's gone quiet, and rightfully so. I mean, they got what they wanted, but what sense do you get? Because we've talked to multiple ADs now who are like, yeah, we're keeping an eye out on the ACC and what all's going on out there, but hey, we're content. There's no more money to squeeze from the TV market. So what do you sense is just kind of their stance right now, and what are they looking at? Is it just all inwards at this point, or is there still a little bit of wandering eye just in case, chaos happens elsewhere?
Look, I think we're all conditioned to say never in this. I mean, you'd be stupid to say it. You'd be stupid to put absolutes on any of it.
Sure.
But I'll just take Brett Yormark at his word lately when he was on that podcast last week with Andrew Marchand. From the New York Post and the other guy from Sports Business Journal, and he said, no, we're done. I know for a fact that they were never interested really in Oregon State and Washington State. I'm like, I don't know how they go to their partners again and ask for more money for those guys who are not worth, the 14 that they're going to have, or the 16 that they're going to have, excuse me. You can't go look for a full share or Stanford, Cal, or Oregon State, or Washington State, even if you wanted to. And I don't think they want to right now. I don't think that in this whole thing, there's two words I've learned that these administrators use. You're either additive or you're diluted. You know what those words mean. You either add to the conference or you're diluting the conference. And I think those four are diluted for the Big 12 right now. So I think they're good. Yeah.
Dennis, great stuff, and I appreciate you jumping on last second with us. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for all of what you've done, the great segments with us, and hope to have you again. And enjoy football season if we possibly can. I think we all can't wait.
Man, I'd love to see some ball. It'd be great.
Yep, thank you.